Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. It is January 2022 and Newcastle United have just put a bid in for Hugo Ekitike. Hang on, no it's not. It's summer 2025, but links last night that Newcastle are back in for the player 3 years down the line. I think Eddie Howe has a list on his wall in the office with about 4 players that he's allowed to buy, and we just keep trying to buy them every window. We're going to talk about him in this video as well. Talked about Wizza a little bit yesterday, the striker that Newcastle have been linked with. What could have been or was hoped to be a bargain fee might not be quite so easy. And an update as Newcastle are still, again, another player we're linked with, still looking at Mark Gahey. Yes guys, how's it going? As I say, it's not 2022, it is the summer of 2025 and Newcastle are on the brink. Well, first of all, I'm in Edinburgh, by the way. Off work today, off work tomorrow, away for a few days with the missus, but I had to jump on for this one. Hugo Ekitike, my God, another name. A man who turned down Newcastle multiple times, and reports are that we are looking at him again this summer window. The price tag is astronomical, so we will talk through that. But as I say, yes, in Edinburgh, enjoying a little bit of sun, although we've come up on this hill, it's a bit windy. Hopefully the audio is sounding okay, but I hope you guys are enjoying your week. And as I say, we are on the brink of bringing in our first signing of the summer, another player who we've been linked with for a few windows, but we're finally 99.9% there to bringing in Elanga. Newcastle United Twitter hasn't posted in almost a day now. Generally speaking, they are pretty up to date on the friendlies that are coming up, members, and a few other things. Have said nothing for a day. Ekitike. Elanga was spotted at the training ground. We hasn't been spotted at St James's Park at the time of recording, but you have to imagine that announcement will either be today or tomorrow. Eddie Howe must be saying, look, we've got the guy in. He's in Newcastle. We're training today. Get him in here. So yes, I'm looking forward to that one just getting done and dusted, signed, sealed, delivered, the done deal announcement by Newcastle United, and we can push on from there. And as I've said, reports the last few days have said that our next priority position is striker. And there was a few names listed kind of yesterday lunchtime. We talked about Wizza, we talked about Watkins. The Wizza one I liked. A lot of you guys in the comments liked that one as well, but and potentially at a reduced fee. But reports coming out yesterday evening that might not be quite the bargain that Newcastle would have been hoping for. Wizza has 1 year left on his deal at Brentford, and because of that, it's kind of sparked a little bit of transfer rumours, not just from Newcastle. Spurs are a team that have been linked with as well, but Brentford have been quoted in saying to Spurs that if they want him, they would have to pay 50 million for him. Now, look, as I say, and I think a lot of you guys commented on my video yesterday to say that people are sleeping on Wizza a little bit. 28 years old, but with just 1 year left on his deal, and has scored, you know, as I said yesterday, kind of, is it up to 25, 30 goals across the last few seasons? I mean, that's not bad going. And because of only having 1 year on his deal left at Brentford, the hope would be that you could maybe get him on. Well, I was talking 15, 20 million yesterday. The reports are that Brentford would want to see a 50 million. This is the links to Spurs, so Newcastle kind of sitting in the background watching this one to see kind of how it goes. Reports are that Spurs would have to bid up to 50 million to land the player, and I just think at that point you're going down the wrong road. You're going into the same discussion we had about Ollie Watkins. Villa looking to, well, interestingly enough, well, it is an interesting one because Villa have kind of PSR issues. Ollie Watkins, you know, has been a fantastic striker for them. He still has 3 years left on his deal. You're kind of wondering, why would they let him go? Well, I think the reason is because if you want that big final payday from Ollie Watkins, really it has to be this summer, because next summer he's 30 with 2 years left. The year after that he's 31 with 1 year left. And I think right now he probably is worth kind of 50, 60 million to a team who's desperate for a striker. Newcastle United aren't desperate for a striker. We have Alexander Isak, so that's why rather than going down that big pricey Watkins move, who probably wouldn't start the season anyway, you're looking down the Wizard line. Similar ages, similar kind of profiles, similar-ish goal tallies, but Wizard with 1 year left gets you on that bargain fee. But as they have done with Mbeumo, they've said to Manchester United, look, he's got his contract's running out as well. But we would rather let his contract go. We'd rather let his contract run down and let him go for free than give in to the lower price that Manchester United are trying to buy him for. And I kind of respect it. I love that they are sticking to their morals. They're not just going to let Mbeumo go for a low fee. The worry is they're going to do the same with Wizard. 50 million or nothing. And then he goes on a free next year, which is kind of mad, but you also have to respect that Brentford want to have a good season this season. If they just start offloading, Mbeumo, Wizard, they've already lost the captain this season, this summer window as well. How would they fare in the Premier League? So they've got to be careful. If Newcastle could get that Wizard one done for that kind of 15, 20, 25 million fee, I think is spot on. Fair enough, in 3 years' time, you might have to walk on a zero and we've lost the money there. But for that reduced fee, I think he's a perfect backup to Alexander Isak, or get him involved in the first team, him and Isak, or rotation. But I mentioned in my video yesterday that I would also like to see Newcastle go for a young foreign player from the foreign markets. I meant it as in young, low cost. Instead, reports last night that Newcastle are back in for 70 to 80 million value. And in fact, Frankfurt saying they want 100 million for him. Ekitike. Straight away, I'm cautious to say this one because I'm not sure how this is going to go, but drop a like if you would like to see Newcastle go back in for Ekitike this summer, and we'll find out what the like tally is, because as I mentioned previously, in January 2022 we went for the player for a fee of around 30-35 million, and now he's worth 80 to 100. Imagine if Newcastle had have been able to get that deal done at the time, and what player he could have been for us. But it didn't work out. Newcastle continued to look and then brought in Alexander Isak. So, sliding doors and all that. Would have been nice to have them both. Had we got Ekitike, maybe at the time he would have been a bit younger, maybe it would have been a bit tougher for him to get in the side. We went for Isak, and we've found our own £150 million player, worth even more than Ekitike. But he turned us down. So the reports are that the bid was there for him, the offer was accepted from Reims at the time, and that they accepted it, and it was Ekitike himself who said that he didn't want to go to Newcastle, instead choosing to go to PSG. He actually spent a year on loan there with an obligation to buy. The loan period went fairly well. He got in there. I'm pretty sure he made a Champions League appearance. He made a few appearances as a young player. Then they signed him, and then they never played him again. Never got any game time. So instead, it's kind of a bit of a theme here. He then went on loan to Frankfurt with, again, an obligation to buy. Frankfurt actually bought him for around, 16 million. They bought him for around half the fee that PSG bought him for. So PSG essentially brought him in and I guess kind of gave up on him, allowed him to leave on a reduced fee. He's now gone there, and now he's started to evolve. He started to grow into the player that probably Eddie Howe saw 3 years ago. And Eddie Howe's been pretty good at that. You have to admit, the players that we have brought in, he has continuously made better. And you have to think, with an Ekitike, he spotted that early, had that early observation of the player that he could really grow into a world-class talent. He's seen it with Isak, he's seen it with Bruno, he's seen it with Dan Burn. He has seen that there, and it's, you look back and think, 35 million, I would take him. 80 to 100 million, I can't see it happening. I really, really can't. Obviously, Chelsea are linked with him, because how could there not be? Any striker available on the market, if Chelsea get Ekitike, Delap must be just literally sitting there going, what is going on here? Pedro went and scored 2 goals. They are interested in Ekitike as well. Absolute madness. Liverpool are also linked with him too. Very similar discussion to the one I've just had with you moments ago in this video. Alexander Isak is is in the Newcastle squad. He will be potentially number 9 on the reports. We'll get the number 9 with Callum Wilson leaving. Number 9 first game of the season, and what we're going to have 80 to 100 million Ekitike on the bench. It just doesn't make sense. The only sense it would make for me if we really did I mean, I would be up for it. I'm hesitant to say that because it is frustrating to note that 3 years ago he didn't want to come to Newcastle. we offered him the option. He went, nah, I'm going to go somewhere else. Having said that, young French lad getting offered the opportunity to go play Champions League PSG, you know, the number 1 team in that country. You know, am I being a bit harsh with that one? And that was why I was hesitant to say if you would like to see him join, drop a like. Because I think there could well be some opinions in the comments, and please don't hold back to say didn't want to join us. Why should we go back for him again? So let me know your thoughts. I just struggle with it. I think, you know, the other side of it, the worrying side could potentially be if Newcastle were looking to land Ekitike, is that because of what Isak is wanting to do? Potentially what I could get on board with is if we did go for it, you know, have them both this season, and then, you know, if Isak's wanting to make that move to, you know, whoever, Real Madrid, Barcelona, someone like that, then we've already brought in a striker who could potentially be with us for an even extended period of time. But I can't see it. It seems fairly sure that Isak's going nowhere. And if that's the case, 80 million on a backup striker just seems a little bit crazy. So let me know your thoughts on that one down below. I have to say, I think the Wizard one would be an absolute banger if we got him on that 15, 20, 25 million deal. If Brentford want 50 and he's 28 years old, you're starting to get into the next realm. But I'm confident. Well, they said Newcastle's priority is a new striker, so we're interested to see what happens next. And as I mentioned, Mark Ahey, the man again. He's one of him. Ekitike, Elanga, Trafford, they're all just printed on Eddie Howe's wall. They've been on that wall for about 7 years, well, for 5 years now since he got in here. Those are the only players that we're allowed to go for. He continuously is getting linked, and that Newcastle are apparently sitting back and watching carefully on what unfolds with the Mark Ahey situation. It looks ever more likely that Palace won't play European football, which is absolutely crazy, and paraphrasing here, because the Palace owner forgot to sign the form that let them play European football. I'm pretty sure that's a fairly important form to sign, and now that Lyon aren't getting relegated, they are going to be allowed, because they wouldn't be allowed to play in Europe if they were in French League 2. Now it looks like they will be able to take part, and that who knows whether Palace will be able to. The reports are that Newcastle are having a steady watch over what happens with that, because obviously if he can't play European football, he may look to leave Palace, but as well looking to see kind of what happens with his links to Liverpool, and if something doesn't materialise with Newcastle, Scalvini and other targets, he would be someone we would still look to go for. There you go. Thanks for watching, guys. As I mentioned already, enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully the sun is shining back home in Newcastle. I'm fairly sure it is. So do enjoy. As I say, if Ekitike is a man you would like to see Newcastle go for, drop a like on this video. If it's not, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you're still watching 13.5 minutes later and you haven't subscribed, then hit the button as well. It's free. Absolutely free. Hit that subscribe button. Pretty much daily uploads at the moment, and we are so close to that 50,000 subscribers. Would be fantastic. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.